All right. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Bend with the knees here. Yeah. Here we go. This is good. This is fine. This is fine. It's double base day. Well, this might be the biggest repair we've ever had in the shop.
Obviously, this is not what we do, really, but this bass belongs to a dear friend of mine that I play in a band with. We do kind of live in a little bit of a wasteland. There are luthiers around us, but we're all really, really busy. And I think the nearest proper bass luthier is over 2 hours away. So that's why this is here in our shop today, and that's why we're taking this project on to help a friend out.
It's kind of in the way, that's all. So here's what we do know about this bass and where the issues are. The first and biggest, in my opinion, is the fact that the neck is basically only being held in by friction. I think that it'll just pop right off. Another issue is around the perimeter on the front and the back of the bass. We do have some glue seams that are starting to come undone. And the other one is this bridge. It's got some intonation issues. It could have a better fit to the soundboard. And it also has a lot of mass on it that we need to remove in order to get it actually at the right geometry. And the other thing that I just remembered is we do have some small issues down here with the post. I think we can get those sorted out. So that's what we know about.
We might find more.
Exactly.
These things do tend to turn into hydras.
Yeah, but I think we've got a really good shot at getting this right the first time. So I guess you'll just have to stick around for the rest of the video to see if we can pull that off.
The nice thing is that this bass belongs to a dear friend of mine. The stakes are really low. This is not an incredibly expensive instrument. In fact, it's mostly sentimental, and that's the reason that we're working so hard to save this. We know that this thing was made in the 1930s, so it's already had a really long life. So worst comes to worst and it winds up being firewood, it's not the end of the world. That's obviously not what we want. That's obviously not what we want. But what we're here to find out today is if we can, in fact, save this 100-year-old bass.
And stick around, because if we are able to pull it off and get this bass back up and running, we're going to get Carrie in here to play some stuff on it along with Matt, and it should be a good time. So stick around for that. Okay, like I mentioned in the opening of the video, the neck is very loose, and now that we've got that sound post secured, I think what I'd like to do is just kind of get a better sense of, am I going to need to apply heat and get some clamps and stuff out, or can I just remove the neck with just brute force, because it's pretty loose. I want to see if we can maybe move this around, because there's like a large visible gap here, and I have a hunch that it's basically just the dovetail kind of holding it all in place, but at the same time, I can't just apply a bunch of upwards pressure on the fingerboard, because then we could separate the seam. This is where the journey begins. I don't know if that's picking up on camera. I'm pushing down on the body really good here. Watch this. It's like, yeah, it's gonna need some sort of reverse clamping pressure, I think. So a game plan must be invented here. How are we gonna get this neck off? I have one idea. The whole thing just comes across as so like amateur and shady.
Ted Woodford would never disrespect an instrument like this.
Exactly, yeah, I could just hear it. How terrible luthiers we are, because we're willing to risk learning something. Yeah. You're gonna feel some slight pressure.
Uh-huh. Are you making progress?
She's making noise.
Okay. Like the sound of hide glue coming undone?
Yeah. I feel like we're making progress. I also don't want to like waller out this dovetail. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because there's definitely a gap. I probably got like 1/10 of an inch here or something. I was hearing progress, and then I wasn't. Okay.
Is it coming up?
No, we got to think about this differently, I think.
Okay.
Being a luthier, there's a special tool for this that I don't know about, is what I should say.
Yeah. Well, hear me out. What if we try heating it up? I'm just saying, like.
That ain't gonna hurt.
Yeah. Gentle.
Same technique,
yeah.
Plus heat. Let's do it.
All right.
It definitely brings out the antique store smell. Smells like a Goodwill in here now. I'm trying to get a broad heat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a medium rare.
Yeah.
Just a little persuasion, you know? Mm-hmm. Okay. Come on, girl. You feel it. You know you wanna.
I do.
That way if it breaks on your watch.
Oh, I see how it is.
Like, I don't know, man. Matt just went all hog wild on it, man. So I just keep picturing the fingerboard just ripping off.
Yeah.
Smoke them if you got them.
Oh?
It's making noise. Bam!
Yeah. So what if we did the probe down in there? How about we break for lunch
Yeah.
and then we come back? I'm starving.
Yeah. Couldn't we just go like this? Let me see that drill. Here, you hold it.
Yeah. All right.
Going in, balls.
So how are you gonna hide it over there? You're gonna.
A little bit of dust.
Okay.
At least this is non-destructive, you know? There's not a spot that's fine. Look at that. Right down the seam. Could have been a surgeon.
Yeah. If only it wasn't for what? Being smart enough or studying, crippling dyslexia, studying hard enough in school.
And at this point, my microphone died, and I'm sure it's because of the sick burn that I served back to Matt. Anyway, I reapplied the heat and let it sit for a few more hours before this happened. Yes! So you guys saw it right there. The neck finally came off. It only took one more try, and that was right after Matt and I just signed off and he left for the day. I went ahead and put it back on the heaters. It was 45 minutes went by, and then that's when I gave it that attempt. And it just popped right off. There's a little bit of some ply that got lifted up on this soundboard onto these cheeks right here, so that's where that wood is. It's not a huge deal. This is a laminate soundboard. It was kind of inevitable to happen, and it's not going to be a big deal because when we glue it all back together, it'll repair itself. Before we can go about the process of getting that neck glued back to the body, now is the perfect time to address those delaminations that we found around the perimeter of the sides. We've gone ahead and marked all of the problem areas with painter's tape and then mixed up a bit of wood glue with a few drops of water. This is done to help thin the glue out so that it'll wick itself into those gaps a little bit easier. At that point, we used popsicle sticks to help pry open those gaps, while we used a whip tip to help feed the glue into the gaps. It should be noted that we did our best to clean out the old glue from these gaps with sandpaper prior to this step. It's inevitable that the wood glue ends up getting all over the sides when doing this, so it's important to have some water and a towel close by to clean up the extra glue before it has a chance to dry. Once we're happy with the glue up, we can then apply some cam clamps to hold everything into place. And then after about an hour of drying time, the joint is like new again, and we just need to repeat that process on every location on the body that needs addressing. Another new day here in the shop.
Day 3 on what Chris likes to do, this thing where he just says, oh, it's going to be a 2-day job tops, and then it never is.
It's not.
It never is.
And we're hoping to get it done today, but I don't think that's going to happen. I really think this is going to be a full week job.
We finally, we've crossed over the top, and now he's like, this is going to take an extra day. Yeah, I think that's probably accurate.
Yeah, we ended up letting all the clamps sit on this base body overnight. Everything looks really good and cinched up. So what we're left with is pretty much the biggest job at this point, which is getting the neck glue back
also
on.
the end pin. We need to, that got kind of, that's loose. We need to shore that up.
So we're going to do that too. We're going to do the neck today though. And the reason why I say that this is going to be the big job is because Matt and I kind of split up, and he cleaned out the glue off of the dovetail on the neck. I cleaned out the dovetail on the body. So in doing so, what we've ended up with is a bit of some gappage that we're going to need to fix, because a lot of this was built up with some veneers. It wasn't the greatest glue job in the world. So, and because it's all maple, it's gonna be a lot of work. So that's kind of where we are. We just gotta kind of start building up some wood, because as you slide this on here, there's just some gaps between the body and the neck heel. It's not a huge deal as long as we fill those gaps up. In the process of building up a dovetail joint to get nice and tight again, it just takes a whole bunch of putting the neck on, taking it off, putting it on, taking it off, before we finally can put some new glue in here and get it glued up. At this point, I settled into the task of refitting the neck to the body. Now, because I wasn't actually trying to change the angle of the neck like I would on a guitar's neck reset, all I really needed to do here was to further clean out any old glue from the joint, and then add any extra material that I'd need to ensure that that neck joint was a lot tighter than that old worn out one. This involved test fitting everything more than a few dozen times before I was happy with the results. Okay, I know that we're ready to go. We're gonna glue this neck on at this point. It did spend a bunch of time kind of going back and forth, taking the neck on, putting it back on, taking it off, back on. So what I'm gonna do is you're gonna use this maple piece of veneer as our only shim inside of this. We're gonna use our classic LMI wood glue. Yeah, at that point, we're just gonna let that sit for a good long amount of time. Matt and I have also kind of game planned on how we wanna deal with the small little gaps that we have on each side. Once again, I know normally we'd be very concerned about getting those gaps completely gone, but in this particular case, it's not a concern. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna mix up some dye inside of some 5-minute epoxy and just kind of spread it into that little bit of a gap that we have there and then wipe everything off, and it should be good to go. But we've checked all of our geometry, which is obviously the most important thing before we do this, and it looks really good. So ain't nothing to it but to do it. So here we go. I don't want to get too nuts.
Bum, bum, ba-da.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Let's get how satisfying this slides on now, because it is a very nice. Oh, yes. It's funny, ever since I put that dye, the black dye on there, or the darker dye, it looks like the gap is huge now. It's not. Yeah. I was like, why is the gap so big? Although the comment section will tell us that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that looks really good. It went way better than I expected, honestly. There you go. Very good. Ah, perfect. The next job that needs to be done to this base is to fix that big old bridge. This is clearly just a store-bought one that a previous luthier stuck onto the base without doing any sort of refinement on it first. And as a result, it's way bulkier than it should be, and I need to remove about half of the material from it to help make it a lot more efficient at transferring that sound into the top of the base. I'll do this by taking the bridge over to my edge sander and then slowly working it until I'm happy with the thickness of the leading edge of the saddle. I have to take my time in doing this because the maple doesn't want to sand itself very easily, and it burns pretty quickly if I apply too much pressure to the sandpaper. As you can see, I was able to take off a fairly large amount of wood from the bridge, and the leading edge is way thinner than it was when we first got the base from Carrie. This should result in more accurate intonation, as well as a better sounding instrument because of the reduced mass of the bridge. All right, so day 5, we're finally done with all of the steps that we need to do with this. Didn't think it could take us 5 days to do it, but the reality of the situation is a lot of the things that we did were just like glue things up and wait for glue to dry. So Matt and I spent half the time going, so what do you want to do now? Mm-hmm. So here we are. Everything is buttoned up and looking good. The neck got glued on yesterday, has sat overnight. I'm really, really happy with how it came out. This morning we just did a quick recondition on the fingerboard. And so today's goal is to get strings back on it and call the project done. Once again, mentioned at the top of the video, we don't work on double basses almost ever. So we did find a YouTube channel called Discover Double Bass, and they had a really great video that we're going to put a link to down below that we watched, and I took some notes on over here that kind of went through.
I learned stuff on how to set up my violin from it. Yeah. It was very comprehensive.
Yeah, and so they talked about kind of like whether you're playing a symphonic style instrument or you're doing more jazz and bluegrass, different ways to look for different setups on the instrument. So we're going to use the numbers that I have written down here to hopefully get this thing dialed in, but I think what we need to do is just kind of get the strings lightly on the instrument and just get a sense of where everything's at, and then we'll go from there and see what. Hang on, is it fine if it sits on top? Are you going to the inside?
That's fine. Just mainly just so we have some kind of tension on the top.
Yeah.
I think we got the neck angle wrong.
Yeah, the tailpiece is like wonky off that way. You can just see just sitting back here. And it also, like, because we bent that wire, and that's going to change how it wants to naturally sit, as opposed to having just a cable.
There we go.
Yeah, but the tailpiece is at an angle.
Yeah.
Like the metal is making it so it doesn't want to sit straight. So, update. I was trying to get this tailpiece kind of lined up better. I thought maybe tightening this up, and I barely touched it with a socket, and it just broke right off. So now we're at a point where we can't put any string tension on the base, and we're probably gonna have to order something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I barely touched it, just snapped. We're just gonna order a new tailpiece. We found some tailpieces online, new, but with a flexible style wire on the end, which is gonna help with our alignment issues. And like I could make this work, but we just need to do it the right way. So we're just gonna order a new tailpiece and be done with it. So we're gonna stop. It's Friday, and we'll just have to tackle this probably on Monday or Tuesday when the new tailpiece comes in. So we were so close.
Once the new tailpiece showed up, it occurred to me that it would be a shame to put something so new on such an old base. So I decided that I would modify the old tailpiece to work with the new style of cable fastener instead of using the new one. In order to pull this off, I just needed to create a pocket on the underside of the tailpiece like you see here on the new one. The best way to do this would be to hog out the material using my drill press and a 1/2-inch Forstner bit. So I got the old tailpiece loaded onto my drill press and set my drill stop to half the tailpiece's thickness and went to work. I then cleaned up the rest of the pocket using a sharp chisel, and what I was left with was exactly what I had envisioned. I just needed to swap over the cable from the new tailpiece onto the old one. And in theory, this tailpiece was now ready to go back onto the base, but I had one more thing that I wanted to do before I could do that. I wanted that old tailpiece to look as good as the freshly cleaned up fingerboard on the base, so I decided to sand it down to 1000 grit sandpaper to remove all of the old scratches and dings, and then I'd polish it up using my buffing wheel. The finished results were well worth the effort, and this tailpiece is now finally ready to put back onto the base.
All right, well, with that out of the way, it's been a few days. It's longer than we expected, but we're ready to...
I lost track.
But we are ready to just put strings on it at this point. We'll obviously do a little bit of a setup after we do that, but get the strings on it, get a setup on it, and then find out if Carrie actually likes what we did or not.
Yeah.
This time around, the string up went smoothly. The tailpiece was now sitting at the correct angle, and the neck seemed to be holding in place exactly as we expected. With a little bit of adjustments, we were able to dial in the string action, and the only thing left for us to do was to have Carrie come in and finally show us what this thing sounds like.